by Alyssa J. Rubin, Aurelian Breeden and Anita Raghav. On March 22, 2016, Brussels. A series of deadly terrorist attacks struck Brussels on Tuesday, with 2 explosions at the city's main international airport and a third in a subway station at the heart of the city, near the headquarters complex of the European Union. At least one of the 2 airport explosions was touched off by a suicide bomber, officials said. At least 34 people were killed, 14 at the airport and 20 at the subway station, and many more were wounded, including 92 at the airport and 106 at the subway station. We were fearing terrorist attacks, and that has now happened. Prime Minister Charles Michel of Belgium said at a news conference, calling the attacks blind, violent, cowardly. On Twitter, he issued an appeal to the population to avoid all movement, as the authorities braced for the possibility of additional violence. The attacks, a vivid illustration of the continued threat to Europe, occurred 4 days after the capture on Friday of Europe's most wanted man, Salah Abdeslam. He is the sole survivor of the 10 men believed to have been directly involved in the attacks that killed 130 people in and around Paris on November 13. President François Hollande of France vowed to relentlessly fight terrorism, both internationally and internally. He added, through the Brussels attacks, it is the whole of Europe that is hit. The French government ordered 1,600 extra police officers to patrol the nation's borders, including at train stations, airports and ports. The Eiffel Tower was to be lit with the colors of Belgium's flag on Tuesday night. Prime Minister David Cameron of Britain called an emergency meeting of ministers. Foreign Minister Frank-Walter Steinmeier of Germany said the attacks aim at the heart of Europe. Pope Francis expressed his condolences. Since the Paris attacks, security experts have warned that Europe was likely to face additional assaults by the Islamic State and by other terrorist groups. The Paris attacks showed that the scale and sophistication of the Islamic State's efforts to carry out operations in Europe were greater than first believed, and analysts have also pointed to Europe's particular vulnerabilities. They include the huge flow of undocumented migrants to the continent from the Middle East last year, the movement of European citizens between their home countries and Syria to fight with the Islamic State, and persistent problems with intelligence sharing among European countries and even between competing security agencies in some nations. Few countries have been more vulnerable than Belgium. It has an especially high proportion of citizens who have traveled to Iraq, insular Muslim communities that have helped shield jihadists, and security services that have had persistent problems conducting effective counter-terrorism operations, not least in its 4-month effort to capture Mr. Abdeslam. The attacks on Tuesday put the Belgian capital in a state of virtual lockdown, with the threat level raised to its highest possible level. Frédéric Van Leeuw, the Belgian federal prosecutor, said that border controls had been strengthened and that extra police officers had been mobilized. All flights to and from Brussels airport were cancelled for the day, and flights